This episode of Bullet Heaven HD was made possible by Degica. In episode 86 of Bullet Heaven HD, we took a look at Deathsmiles on the Xbox 360, one of the few side-scrollers made by the Bullet Hell masters at Cave, and the first Cave shooting game to see release in North America. We dug its Capcom-style jetpack hero approach to shooting in both directions, as well as its bevy of options. Finally making its way to PC via Steam from Degica, Deathsmiles is now even more readily available for people that may have missed out on the original Xbox 360 releases. Featuring both standard and black label gameplay for its arcade original, enhanced, and version 1.1 modes, it's every bit as feature-packed as the 360 release. But how does it hold up? Let's take a look. We took a very in-depth look at the finer points of Deathsmiles in our previous review. Players have access to 4 characters, each with their own bullet patterns and familiars. Each of them has a life bar style stock divided into 3 sections. Depending on what actually hits them on their tiny heart-shaped hitbox, as little as half of a single bar can be depleted, meaning they're still on the same life of the stock of 3. The basics to controlling your character are easy. Movement is as 8 ways you'd expect from a side-scrolling shmup, and follows the same kind of rules that any cave shooter has. Rapid shots have normal movement, and concentrated fire halves it for more precise dodging. Any character can fire left or right, depending on the button pressed. By default, A fires left and B fires right. Tapping results in a rapid shot, while holding the respective button will engage concentrated fire and slowed movement. The default controls work well, but players can also fully customize their setups too. This is helpful with the version 1.1 setup in particular, which we'll look at in a second. Beyond the standard attack and movement controls is a homing attack, which is engaged by holding its respective button and locking on with your character's familiar. This familiar will also have different fire and movement properties depending on the character chosen. And of course, when things get a little too hairy, a screen-clearing bomb attack is also available, with a default stock of 3. There is also an overdrive technique that boosts your character's power level dramatically when used. As enemies are defeated and bonus pickups are collected, a counter will grow in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. When this counter glows yellow, the power boost can be engaged and will last until the counter depletes and hits 0. This is also critical to scoring, which we'll touch on shortly. The difference between the 6 modes is subtle at times and drastic at others. Arcade mode is just a low-res version that is best displayed on a CRT display. This version is the same that would have been run off of a Cave PCB in Japanese arcades. Normal is a high-res version akin to the Xbox 360's enhanced mode. Finally, version 1.1 introduces new control and score mechanics that add a layer of complexity to the whole formula for advanced players. All game types progress in much the same manner. Players have multiple choices by which to start the game and progress to new ones. With 3 sets of stages that alternate between each other, players can take them on more or less in any order they choose. Additional special stages can also be attacked for a higher score, though these stages can be brutally difficult. In all, there are a total of 9 stages. Each of these stages can also have their difficulty changed as well, between one of 3 levels. Level 3 is typically the hardest, with suicide bullets being thrown into the mix the more you take them on. Where arcade and normal both adhere to the gameplay guidelines above, version 1.1 adds dual stick controls to move your familiar directly, rather than its automatic movement relative to yours. Helpful, since familiars can absorb suicide bullets, which are much more frequent in 1.1 than other modes. In addition, overdrive is available with a much lower counter than other modes too, and bullets can be cleared off of the screen when it's enabled and ended. Suicide bullets are also more plentiful during overdrive as well. Finally, there is the Mega Black Label, or MBL modes, which allows for a 5th character, Sakura, to be used. In addition, not only do regularly selected difficulties get crossed off as the game progresses, a ridiculous level 999 is also available for each stage, which causes a massive spike in enemy fire and flood of suicide bullets for the hardest core players. It's a bit too much for me. All the while, Deathsmiles' rock-solid engine hits 60 frames per second without a hitch in any screen size, making for a smooth gameplay experience. There is a lot of slowdown in this game, but again, as was the case with Mushihime-sama as well, a lot of it is intentional, as the frames per second counter in our capture software didn't drop from 60 at any time. Some of the slowdown seems a little misplaced, but oftentimes it's welcomed because of the flood of bullets that will often be coming your way. Rounding out the package, online score attack modes and replay recordings are also present for all modes. As far as true bullet hell games go, Deathsmiles is one that is very approachable to newcomers, especially with its variable difficulty levels both pre- and in-game, making it one that even the purest novices can really get into. Its wealth of gameplay modes also ensures that there's plenty of game to play and secrets to find. Once again, we got into the scoring aspects of Deathsmiles with much more detail in the review proper on Xbox 360. But the main key to getting a higher score in Deathsmiles is to catch the bonuses that enemies drop as they fall before they hit the ground. If they do, bonus pickups will split into grade with each subsequent bounce, falling in value so as not to be worth as much as the previous form when collected. The type of fire enemies are defeated with can also affect what bonuses are dropped, with ground-based enemies typically requiring concentrated fire and aerial foes being felled with normal rapid shots for the highest payouts. When the overdrive counter reaches its maximum at 1000, silver lockets can change into gold crowns. These jump up in value as they continue to be collected, but in overdrive mode, pickups will build up dramatically with a bonus attached score up to 10,000 points each, making for a very nice payout. In version 1.1, gold crowns are also awarded when the overdrive counter reaches 1000. Meanwhile, in Mega Black Label, overdrive can subsequently award huge platinum crowns, which skyrocket a player's bonus to huge heights. Overdrive also results in tons of suicide bullets being converted to bonuses up to and including platinum crowns at higher levels as well. Finally, felled bosses will also award players with various pickups of differing sizes when defeated at stage end, regardless of mode. And that's just the obvious stuff. There are charts upon charts of minutia when it comes to individual scoring in the many modes that Deathsmiles has as well, but following the guidelines above is sure to get a player's score up in no time. Deathsmiles is a game that has a lot going for it in its presentation. The gothic-lolita and occult theme works really well, and despite the cast having been referred to as lowlies in the past, a questionable term which Degica has thankfully shed from Deathsmiles marketing, the outfits for each character here is pretty tasteful and less creepy than you'd think. Deathsmiles' backgrounds and stage elements are all a little on the pixely side, and the smoothing blurs the gameplay image just a smidge too much, but otherwise everything is very clear, well designed, and well animated. There is even adaptive screen sizing too. Basically, you can make the screen as big or as small as you need and the resolution adapts automatically. It's nifty stuff. That said, while we have encountered no issues, some players have reported bugs and image tears. Fixes are sure to happen very swiftly though. On the sound front too, Deathsmiles is pretty great on the whole. A fantastic OST underlies the entire game, though the final boss theme is very stock. I would have really preferred an original boss theme to box Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Meanwhile, some of the VO is screechy, and, at stage end, a little lame. But the explosions, shot sounds, and enemy deaths all work very well by comparison. The story in Deathsmiles is also one that's coherent and fairly well told, which is a rare thing as far as shooting games go, even among cave titles. Story scenes and character interactions change depending who is in use, which is nice. Basically, Deathsmiles on Steam is every bit as good at least as the Xbox 360 version, with more to offer in terms of extras thanks to Steam achievements and Steam trading cards, which makes for a nice collectible bonus for fans of the Deathsmiles franchise. But how does it stack up? Let's take a look. Deathsmiles' control scheme is everything a cave fan wants in terms of sharpness and customizability. Some of the slowdown feels a little sluggish though. With a very widely variable difficulty, Deathsmiles is as hard or as easy as any player needs it to be. With 3 core modes and Mega Black Label versions of each, not to mention secret locations and all kinds of endings, there's a ton to play here. Visually, some of the backgrounds and sprites can be pretty rough around the edges, but are otherwise well animated and creatively designed. For a while now, Deathsmiles has been one of my favorite cave OSTs. The sound effects are also really good with the exception of certain annoying character VO clips. Deathsmiles' ingenuity is excellent despite its inherent similarities to the over 2-decade-old Jetpack hero games from Capcom. Given this, the awesome gameplay tweaks, variable difficulties, multiple players, and fun scoring makes Deathsmiles an instant winner. If somehow you've missed it, Deathsmiles on Steam is a game every STG fan needs to play at some juncture thanks to its incredible approachability and great style. Deathsmiles gets a 4.5 out of 5. You can get a copy of Deathsmiles on Steam today for about $20 US.